Accessing Secure Channel. The Agent Files, where aspiring agents rise and masters flourish. Powered by Agent Builder Coaching. Mission initiated. File loading.
Hi there, this is Peter Fan for Agent Builder Coaching and the Agent Files podcast, and specifically for those that are just about ready to get into the business of being a real estate agent. So you've likely completed your education, but you have not actually activated your license yet. A really good time to do a lot of preparatory work that you can do without a license. Okay, legally compliant. As long as you stay compliant and don't actively start soliciting, there's a lot of things that you can actually do. And what we're going to talk about today is one of the 7 essentials of success in real estate, in any business for that matter, but it is actually lead generation. And you can do strategically some profile increasing awareness, right? You're not actually soliciting business, but you're making people aware that you are getting into the business of real estate and making people aware of you, right? So that they start seeing you in that light, in that context. So it's an important topic because unfortunately, real estate is very much a business development, a business growing, a prospecting type industry where getting in touch and staying in touch with people is critically important. There's just no two ways about it. Now, in the good old bad old days, I was taught a model based on the School of Hard Knocks, I suppose. And this was a gentleman by the name of Floyd Wickman, and his model was, well, here's a phone book, and start with A, and keep phoning until you get an appointment. And oh, by the way, tomorrow you come back in to the office and you grab the same phone book and you start wherever you left off and you start making phone calls until you get an appointment. And you keep doing that until that becomes second nature. And so that was his approach. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that it wouldn't work necessarily today, but it is the School of Hard Knocks, and it is not, because I've done it, I've been there, I've walked that path, so to speak. I can tell you that it's not particularly a pleasant path, and it's not my personality. So I don't like to be cold called myself. So people that cold call me are going to not find a very receptive person on the other side of the phone line. So if I don't want to be cold called, why would I cold call? So I don't teach cold calling. Sorry. It's not what you're hoping for. You're more than welcome to do it, don't get me wrong. And I'm not suggesting that you never make a call. And you may even have to make a call to people that you don't necessarily know. But you will most likely have some connection with them in some way, shape, or form. And that to me is not quite the same as a cold call. Okay? It may feel for some people like a cold call, but if you have a connection by way of referral or other introductions or some interest or something that connects you with that person, there may actually be a valid reason and very beneficial reason for yourself and for the person that you call or contact to have that interaction. Anyway, so don't wait for the perfect lead. There's no such thing, right? Build the systems that bring leads to you. It sounds so simple, right? It sounds so simple. It's not quite that simple, but okay. So why does ALM, and we call ALM automatic leads machine, right? Automatic leads machine. Why does it matter? Well, unfortunately, without you having good relations with people, there is no business. There's no business. So no leads, no business. No cash flow, no commissions, no way to build something sustainable without customers. By the way, that's not unique to real estate. It applies to every business in the world. Right? Why do businesses go bankrupt? Well, they either overspend on what was otherwise a successful business model, or they simply do not have enough clients to pay the bills. And we can dance around it, but and think back on how things change, right? So Uh, I'd like to make the example of the comparison between Simpson Sears Company and Amazon. Now, if you're of a very young generation, you may not know what Sears is, but Sears Roebuck, Simpson Sears, used to be, for all intents and purposes, the Amazon of the 1900s, you know, early catalog shopping was owned by Simpson Sears. They owned it, and I was living in the Netherlands, and we would ask family that was living in Canada to send us in the Netherlands, even though we didn't have Simpson Sears, but we loved to get the Simpson Sears catalog because it showed us stuff and lifestyles of what was happening in Canada and the United States that we had no insight in. They had products in there that we had never seen, right? So for us, it was really neat. So when Simpson Sears went belly up, everybody was really surprised. And but why were they going belly up? Because they were stuck in that 1920s, 1950s model. Yeah, they had developed a website, but they weren't aggressively approaching their basically eroding business market share um, and dealing with their real competition, which was Amazon. Right? Amazon is now what Sears was many, many years ago. The catalog is still there. We just call it, shopping online. Right? I mean, that's the catalog now. But Simpson Sears owned that market. They absolutely dominated that marketplace, and every other business was envious of what Simpson Sears was able to do because they were selling product, right? But not necessarily having stores in all communities, but they were selling product in every community that where the mailman would deliver. Right? So things change. So when all of a sudden the market shifts and all of a sudden your source of clients dries up, now you can start complaining about it or you can adjust. And that's really what automatic lead machines need to be able to do is adjust and accommodate, not where the market is necessarily, although that's an important piece, but it's also where it's going to be in the future. It's kind of a Wayne Gretzky thing, right? The Wayne Gretzky's famous quote is, "I don't go where the puck is. I'm going where the puck is going to be next." Well, what you're doing today as far as lead generation, or what you're going to be doing once you're licensed as far as lead generation, will very much determine where your business is going to be in the future. So where do you want to generate your best interactions, your best conversations, your best relationships will very much determine where your success and or lack of success is going to come from. So it's an important piece to consider. Now, let me fill in some blanks and let's be real for a moment. If you have an affinity for, say, working with first-time home buyers, right? But in the community that you pick to work in, the average price is so high that it's just completely unaffordable for first-time home buyers. You may be pursuing first-time home buyers, but you're never going to sell anything because the market is just not there to accommodate first-time home buyers. Does that make sense? Right? So you would either have to adjust what type of target audience you go after, or adjust where you're going to be marketing yourself to accommodate the affordability and the pricing structure of the marketplace to be able for first-time homebuyers to buy a property, right? So, for example, when I started in real estate, I lived and operated in Maple Ridge in the Lower Mainland, just about an hour and a half east of Vancouver. At least at that time, it was about an hour and a half outside of downtown Vancouver. Obviously, because it's a lot bigger and busier now, the timing has changed. Although I guess by SkyTrain you might be able to do it. But anyway, now there was one agent, a very notable agent who was a disruptor in the marketplaces. She was really smart. She lived and operated in Mission, of all places, Mission, BC, which is about, I guess, an hour and a half, 2 hours away from downtown Vancouver. And in those days, that marketplace was a whole lot cheaper than Vancouver, East Vancouver, Burnaby, where, you know, there was, a little bit more prestige, but also much higher prices. And it had become quite expensive, even in those days. I'm talking 1987 and beyond, for first-time home buyers to enter into the marketplace. So what did this realtor do in Mission? She advertised listings out of Mission in a newspaper that was published and distributed in Burnaby and East Vancouver and downtown Vancouver. Why? Because she was able to show properties that were sometimes half the price of the properties in Burnaby. So she would get lots and lots of inquiries. Now, some of those people said, well, I don't want to be a Mission. Well, that's fine. And then she would take their contact information and would refer them out to agents in Burnaby and East Vancouver with the notion that saying that, hey, I'm referring this couple to you, they want to buy in your area. Just keep in mind that if and when you have a referral for Mission, talk to me, right? Send it to me. Well, that agent became the top agent for the organization that she was working within the first year that she started in the business, because she was a disruptor. She found a method to generate leads, right? Affordability was a real hook in the sense that it drew in lots and lots of inquiries. And she was able to convert those inquiries, not just always in business in her locale, but business nevertheless. And she was able to refer that out to other agents. And if you don't know this already, it is quite common that if you send a referral to another agent, that they pay you upwards to about 25 to 30% of the commissions that they make for that referral. So it can be quite profitable. Plus, it generates referrals in its own right? You send a referral, many realtors will go out of their way to make sure that you get a referral back. So it's a really good business model. So that's just one example of kind of accommodating and adjusting to where the market is at, and understanding that lead generation has to happen no matter what the market is like, right? So no leads, no business. Again, having good systems becomes a really key part, because the systems will run the business. You run the systems. If the systems don't generate results, then is there something wrong with the system? Is it focused on the wrong things? Is it reaching people, but those people cannot afford to buy, like I said, the affordability? Or are you reaching the wrong locations or the wrong buyer audience? Now, whether you do this online or in person or your sphere of influence, it doesn't really matter. You need to be somewhat analytical about, holding your outreach, your marketing, your solicitations, your lead generation accountable to what your expectations are. So you can do a lot of this research now when you're not yet licensed, right? If you are in a particular area and you want to sell in that particular area, well, what is the draw to that area for the general public? Why do people buy there? Why do people sell there? Right? Is it going up? Is it going down? Where's the opportunities? Where's the market in that area that allows you to say, okay, I'm going to find my niche, my pocket, my sweet spot. That's not by the exclusion of everything else, but I can honestly say that if you cater your marketing, your lead generation, your prospecting to niches, to specific types of properties, or for specifically types of buyers, right? New buyers, seniors that are downsizing, people that are relocating because there's new industry or industry that is leaving, right? That sometimes have to relocate, and therefore there's listing opportunities, or developers that need to get their product on the marketplace, or new construction. it doesn't really matter which one you pick. You need to do your homework to understand where that market is and then cater to it so that you have generated the hook that is specific to target the audience that you want to reach. Hope that makes sense. Now, does it stop you from doing cold calls? No, of course not. You can do that. I don't necessarily think it's my way of doing it, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. Okay. So, again, we talked about pre-license warm-up means that you're ready to launch with momentum, that you are ready to go to business the moment that you are licensed. So, how do you do that? Well, building awareness, right? Your sphere of influence knows you as you used to be, right? Your previous job, your hobby connection with them, the schools, the church, the sports, the community events, whatever it is that you have a connection with your friends and your family about, that's kind of what they know you as and remember you as. What becomes important is that they start recognizing, seeing you as a real estate professional, right? So that if and when real estate comes up in the conversation, that they think of you to refer people to you or to say, hey, I'll have my friends, my neighbor, my cousin, my previous colleague call you because they're great to look after you and your real estate needs. If you can get that, then awesome. Now, again, I'm going to caution you, you have to be compliant here. You cannot start soliciting business at this stage because you're not licensed, right? You cannot portray yourself as a real estate agent. But you can tell the story. You can talk about, hey, I've done all of this preparatory work. I've completed the pre-license course and now building all of my marketing materials, and I'm going to be doing this, and this once I'm licensed in real estate, and I'm so excited. And you can start doing kind of your observations as what you see happening. Some people go specifically to the municipal council meetings and listen to what's going on as far as development, and then reporting their observations of what's going on in the community, where's new construction happening, where's new permits being issued, and so on and so forth. There's many, many different ways that you can start raising your profile, the public awareness to both your sphere of influence as well as the general public in some way, shape, or form that it connects you already with becoming a real estate professional, right? And that's a good thing to start thinking about as soon as possible in a compliant way, right? You can't say, hey, I know all this stuff about real estate. Talk to me because I'm a realtor. No, you can't say that. You can't even do that and say, talk to me because I'm becoming a realtor. You cannot solicit immediate interaction right now. But you can overall make people aware that that's what you're going to be doing going forward in the appropriate way. And if you have questions about it, you can talk to me, but I'm not a managing broker, so I can't make policy and guideline decisions for you. I can give you some general outlines. But in British Columbia, BCFSA, the regulator, the people that give out the licenses, they have very good information on their website about what you can and what you can't do as a licensee or as a non-licensee. So that information is there. I'm sure in some of the resources that we've given you the website, but otherwise just look up BCFSA. But if you're in Alberta or any of the other provinces, go to the source. And the source for the rules is always your regulator. Whoever issues the license, they will have the rules that tell you what you can and what you can't do when you're not licensed. Okay? So if that's ever in question, that's where you go. And if you want to talk to your managing broker to be, that's another good place because they will tell you exactly what you can and what you can't do. Okay? So some compliance safe warm-up activities can be share your journey, right? I'm preparing to be licensed, and here is what I did. I did assignment 2, and I did mortgage calculations, and I started to visit open houses, and yada, 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 right? Start providing community information. and resources, right? One of the things that is very helpful for most people is where where are the key resources for people new to a community, right? What websites, what portals exist, how to apply for, I don't know, your new driver's license, or where to find jobs, rental accommodation, and so on and so forth. There's lots and lots and lots of things that you can report on. Where are all the schools? Where are all the rec centers? Where are all the, I don't know, the theaters? You name it. Anything that to do with your community that adds value to your profile is important. But also think about people new to a community. What do they want to know, need to know, have to know about moving to your community that they don't already know? So online, to start talking about those things can be actually quite good for raising your profile. Okay. Grow your database in some way, shape, or form, and grow your engagement. So if you don't already have a list of 100, and we've talked about this in previous sessions, this is really one of the things to work about, right? So again, law of averages says that out of 100 people that you know, upwards to about 10 people will move over the next year. They may not move tomorrow or the week after, but about 10% of people will move, over the next year. Well, that's, if 100 people, that's 10 people. You will not even have a sniff at them if they don't know that you're in the business or that you will be going into business. So those are the people that you may not necessarily have the ability to solicit, but them being aware that you're going to be in the business at least opens something of an opportunity somewhere down the road once you're actually licensed. Okay. So that's an important part, but it also is an important part for you to recognize that, hey, if my list is only 50 people, but I want to do 20 transactions a year, well, I better get on with adding more people to my sphere of influence. Okay. And build real relationships, not in a soliciting type of way, but in a way that the consumer sees as valuable to them. Okay? Valuable to them. Right? What's in it for them is what you really need to think about. So you cannot solicit clients or promote listings or advertise real estate services. You just can't do that. Okay? It will make you getting licensed real difficult. Okay? So, channels that you can warm up, your sphere of influence, right? Your database, your list, your core connections with people. You can start doing things like market updates in the sense of, hey, this is what's happening here, this is what's happening there. You cannot solicit individual listings. You can certainly do statistics, or you can just take the publicly available statistics of the real estate board and do your interpretation of that. Hey, did you see that? We sold more, or the market sold more homes in this category than last year, so things must be looking up a little bit, and yada 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 yada. If you recognize that you have an interest and an expertise in the marketplace that you can talk about and share about. Okay. Community presence, i.e., get involved, get engaged with what is going on in the community, right? Volunteering, service clubs, events, parades, sports activities, sports events, whatever. Get involved, get engaged, right? For the right reasons. Don't do it for generating business. But what you're doing is raising your public awareness. People become more aware of your presence, right? Volunteering at the municipal level, for example, in committees, or particularly committees that serve people or causes that you are attached to, that you have an interest in, whether it is, I don't know, dog walking parks or seniors or the fitness center, or one of the things that is quite popular in many areas is, what are we doing with bike lanes, right? That can be something that you can kind of become a volunteer in that area as to what's best to do next, and so on and so forth. In volunteering in schools is obviously a very cool thing to do for many reasons, both for the school, for the kids, for interaction between schools and parenting, and so on and so forth. So there's lots and lots of opportunities to be involved and be engaged, and that will again raise your presence and profile in the community. I kind of skipped social media there just kind of a little bit for a reason, because I think it's important to recognize that social media has a different kind of place. It's not lead generation per se, because I don't honestly feel so strongly about social media to actually generate leads. It will raise your profile. So what you do in the community, if you report on that on social media, that's a really good kind of piggybacking on one another, right? It's multi-purposing what you're doing in the community in real life, then reporting on it or working with that cause, that in volunteering, that activity, that event, and promoting those events for the right reasons. Not just boost yourself and your own ego, no, but to support the causes that you're working with. Yeah. And yeah, you can start creating some content, whether that's for social media or doing blogs or short videos. Or one of the things that you can do, without intent of really talking about real estate, but if you like to, one of the things that works really well is doing short videos on, say, small businesses or community groups. If you're involved in small community groups, is talk about what their cause is and what they do and how they do things and the events that they may be promoting or advocating. And again, if video is one of those mediums that you like working in, then that's a really good way to support others, help others, while you also raise your own profile. So it's actually a very good way to do that. And collaboration in general is a very good way to build your overall awareness in the community. Okay, so as an exercise, homework, right? I've overwhelmed you with a bunch of stuff here. I want you to keep it simple, right? Pick one thing, just one thing. Right? Choose one warm-up channel, social media, a sphere of influence, or some content, but one thing, right? And create something, right? In that draft, some sort of a compliance-safe post, video, article, blog, newsletter. It doesn't really matter what you pick, but draft one, right? And then in your sphere or in your kind of topic or channel, in your speciality, in your niche, try to identify 10 people to connect with or reconnect with, and be social, not be real estate. Just be social, right? And just do the FRD thing, right? Family, occupation, recreational dreams. And when people reciprocate and say, my work is doing great. What are you doing? Right? Because that's the question that will come back. How are you doing? What are you doing? What's going on in your life? Well, then you can tell them a little bit that, hey, you're just getting ready to get into real estate, and leave it at that. And they'll be excited for you. They'll ask maybe some more questions, but don't get into the solicitation mode. Don't get into, yeah, when you're ready, talk to me. That type of thing is dangerous, because inevitably everybody knows at least 5 realtors, right? So Johnny talks to Bobby, Bobby talks to Mary, Mary talks to whomever, and all of a sudden, the moment that you get licensed, there's already a complaint filed with the real estate council. And because realtors amongst themselves may act real nice, but they're not necessarily nice. You're competition, right? You are competition. We can't live without our peers, but you still are competition. And some agents become quite jealous about how other agents operate and function. And the vast majority of the complaints that the regulator gets is actually from other realtors, not from the general public, by quite a margin. Okay, so it's important that you kind of stay within the rules, because somebody will always learn about it. All right. So when you connect and reconnect, stay on the safe side of where the rules are, what compliance is, and then document your interactions in your social media tracker, whether that's your spreadsheet, your CRM, whatever you've decided on, in how you track and monitor your sphere of influence. And we talked about how to do that in a previous section. But if you use a spreadsheet, then make sure that there is a column there where you can keep notes, and that you date the notes as far as when you had this conversation, and then this is kind of the key part. What is next? What are you going to do next with that person? Right? If you have a conversation today and you talked about your volunteering, okay, then maybe follow up and say, hey, it was really great to talk to you the other day. Here's some information about the organization that I'm volunteering at. If you have any interest in that, great. Or if you had a conversation because you attended a council meeting at the municipal hall and they talked about some sort of development that is being proposed, and find the link of the minutes of that meeting and fire it off to the people that you were talking to. Don't say, hey, when that development is ready, I'd love to introduce you to it and sell it to you. It's too early. You can't do that kind of stuff. Right? I hope I'm making sense. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm actually trying to give you kind of some boundaries to stay within. So an automatic leads machine is really about consistency, right? And having a reliable flow with realtors. I oftentimes actually refer to it as a momentum machine as well, right? You build momentum in building relationships, and the relationships lead to conversations, and you, for all intents and purposes, never let the conversation die. It is always, keep having that conversation. Whatever the conversation leads to, over time, if you have been patient and allowed things to evolve in a relatively natural way, the conversations will lead back to real estate in some point, in some fashion, and people will always remember that, right? If you add value to their lives, they'll add value to yours. Okay, that's why I keep saying this. Focus on the relationship. The sales will take care of themselves. Okay, so this time, your place in getting ready to be licensed is actually perfect to plan this, to strategically think about this, and put yourself in kind of a flow where you truly have embraced what you are going to be when you are a real estate agent, right? How you're going to represent yourself, how you're going to go into the marketplace, what that looks like, what that feels like, what that acts like, right? And it comes together with things that we talked about in previous sessions about your operating systems and your protocols. And how are you going to launch yourself? Who are you going to launch to? What are you going to say? How are you going to say it? All of these things you can work on, so that by the time you're actually launching your business, because that's what you're doing once you get your license, you're now launching your business. You're ready for it, right? It's not a surprise. You've been working on this for a while now. Okay, this is a good thing. People that follow this, right, they are surprised how much easier it is for them to actually get into the business side of real estate, because it's no longer so overwhelming. They've already seen and experienced most of the stuff that now comes at them, and they go like, "Oh yeah, that was Peter talked about this," or "This is the next step," and I gotta just pay attention to what's next. Right? So some action items: start your weekly sphere of influence on the touch point schedule. Right? Get in touch, stay in touch. Draft 3 compliance safe social media posts. Right? Plan a community event appearances. Where are you going to go? What are you going to attend this month locally that is close to your heart, close to your passion, close to your dreams and ideal situation to be involved with outside of real estate? Something that is important to you, that you have an affinity with. And that may become, it may not, but it may become part of how you reach a target audience, right? It may be. It doesn't always have to be, but it may be. And then choose one digital platform to begin building a presence. Pick one. Okay, don't go, oh, I got to be on TikTok and X and Facebook and Instagram, Pinterest and YouTube. No, pick one. Okay, pick one. Don't go crazy. And again, stay compliant. Stay compliant. Okay. Now, some suggested reading. We have talked about most of these before. I think building a story brand is a new introduction, new book in the list, so to speak. But Fanatical Prospecting definitely is one of these books that you might want to put your hands on for your own, that you own it. It is a bit heavy on the prospecting part. I'm more of the relationship part, but it's not dissimilar in that book. It's just the language is a little bit more assertive, a little bit more proactive than how I would necessarily put it. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It's actually it's a well written, well put together book. Building a story brand, well, goes without saying that stories is what makes people emotionally connected with you. So if you can brand yourself through stories, inevitably that becomes a really advantageous way to go about things. Okay. Now, Brian Buffini is being in and around real estate as a coach and training resource. It's an American organization, but their business is built on relationship and referral business development. So they do produce some pretty good stuff. I've attended. I'm a student of Brian Buffini, and I have most of his stuff. So I certainly encourage you to look into it. We teach a lot of similar types of models. There is only so many different ways that you can do real estate, and mine is similar to, but much more Canadianized in our approach, of course. Okay, so those are some additional resources. I hope this information was helpful. And again, it puts lead generation in time and place and space where you are, right? You cannot actually solicit a business, but you can definitely raise the bar, raise your profile in your community. And that's highly encouraged, of course, right? Again, stay within the boundaries, but get in touch, stay in touch. That's a habit that we need to get you into. Continue conversations. Hope that all helps you, and looking forward to talking to you soon on the next episode of the Agent Files for the agents that are almost ready to get licensed. I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. Have a fantastic week. All the best.
File saved. The Agent Files. For more missions, agents' tools, and tactical strategies, subscribe and follow the Agent Files, powered by Agent Builder Coaching. Until next time, stay sharp. Your next mission awaits.